I'm on the Helios right now, 44M 58mm f2. Just using the monitor to see how my focus is. What's up guys, my name is Mark, and this video is all about the music. More specifically, a technique I use to best integrate music into my videos. Along with a few tips on how I edit that music to make it all seamless.
And it's alright.
So, when I'm not absolutely fawning over these vintage lenses, I'm working as a film editor for scripted network and documentary TV series. Now, I've been professionally editing for over 17 years, which is a long time. And I guess you could say I've learned a thing or two. The very nature of filmmaking, whether you're making a feature film, a documentary, or a YouTube video, is to play with your minds. Well, that's not done in any sort of sinister way. It's all done with the intention of bringing the audience into the story. Now, there are a number of ways this can be achieved, like the clever use of camera angles, lens choices, lighting, dialogue, and actors' movements. Everything really is meant to convey meaning. I'm pretty sure we can all agree that music plays one of the biggest roles in conveying the intended emotion or tone of a video. And in life in general, like, music is emotion. Now, whether I'm cutting a documentary series or a YouTube video, I approach the use of music the same. To first break down the narrative beats of the film or video, and then to assign different music tracks to each one of those narrative beats. Now, in short, I use a lot of different music tracks in my videos. And of course, the music track selection will vary depending on the tone of the content. For a typical 60-minute doc episode I cut, I'll use between 60 and 80 different music tracks. And for my shorter YouTube videos, I'll use between 5 to 7, give or take. Now, the reason I use so many is that because storytelling is dynamic. It's constantly moving, and you want your music to flow and change with it. Doing this successfully will do two things for a video. One, it will give it a dynamic sense of pacing and rhythm to your edit. And two, it will help keep the audience oriented and invested in the storytelling. It is really the closest thing you can get to scoring a video without handing off a picture lock cut to a composer who will then create an original soundtrack. Of course, this will have an impact on your workflow. First, you'll need to find more songs than you normally would. And you'll also have to use some music editing techniques to help smooth out the transitions between the songs. Now, the extra work is worth it though, believe me. Here are my top 3 techniques when editing music. Number 1, cut on the downbeat. Now, the nice thing about most modern editing programs now is that they show you the waveforms of the songs. And this makes it fairly easy to identify patterns, particularly drum beats. Now, cutting on a downbeat is the most common place to add an edit point. Oftentimes, the song will resolve in some way at the end, and I'll use this downbeat as an opportunity to cut to the end of the song. It's important to control the length of the music you use. Don't let it control you. Number 2, using a reverse riser. I try not to use them too often because they sound like you're trying to hide an edit. but they are effective if used sparingly. If you place a riser hit at your cut point, you can essentially turn off the music track and just let the riser naturally fade out. Number 3, sometimes the most effective way to use music is to know when to cut it out altogether. If used properly, this can have just as dramatic impact on your narrative as adding music. My advice really is to experiment to see what works best. But keep in mind, removing the music in a scene can really add to the emotion of that scene or emphasis on a point. So the last thing I wanted to address now that I've created more work for you is where you can find all this music. Now the good news is today, there are loads of options. If you're making YouTube videos, the platform itself has its own free music selection that you can use. If you're looking for something more, there are a number of affordable music services that are available where you pay a monthly subscription to access loads of music options. Now, I personally have been using Epidemic Sound for the past 2 years for my YouTube videos and have actually been really happy with their service. Not only do you get loads of different music options, but they offer the ability to isolate the musical stems of these tracks, which are the individual instruments found within the full mix. Them stems, baby. They also have a fairly robust sound effects library in case you need to enhance your sound design. Alright guys, well that's it for this video. Now please keep in mind that this is simply a technique that works well for me. It's not a paint by numbers system. You definitely need to use your own creative discretion when using music in your edits. Just always be mindful of the emotion you're going for in your video, and the rest should follow. Feel music. If you have any questions or comments on anything I've talked about, hit me up down below. It's a pretty big topic and I've only really sort of brushed the surface. Thanks as always for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.